Pairing Nikon's smallest lens with one of their largest primes doesn't seem to make much sense for travel, but Japan is unpredictable. Crowded markets and subways to traditional vistas far away in the distance, I always seem to be missing the right lens at the right time to capture it all. Let's walk through all 10 Nikon Z lenses in my collection to explain how I landed on the Pancake and the Plena. But the perfect travel photography kit is a mirage we can chase but never catch, a mystery box, a MacGuffin. But I still need one more lens. I'm Jack, scientist by day, street photographer by night, and I'm about to head off on my 15th Japan trip. Over the past decade, I've developed 6 travel photography non-negotiables to create thousands of images in Japan that I'm really happy with. My non-negotiable number 6 for travel, primes only. It's not just because primes are smaller or have faster apertures, but because how fussy zooms can be for street photography. Bring the camera up, then zooming in and out on the lens barrel, focus, then the shutter, all while needing both hands to operate. And this makes me even more conspicuous on the street, which is why I decided to bring the Nikon 26mm f2.8. It's Nikon's smallest first-party Z-mount lens, only 125 grams, and allows the whole camera setup to maintain a very low profile. But now there's lots of other alternatives when it comes to small, fast, and wide lenses for Nikon, including the Viltrox 20mm f2.8. A lot of you recommended this lens to me, so I asked my friends at Pergear if I can try it out. Full frame 20mm f2.8, quick focusing, small, only about 180 grams. It's sharp, certainly sharp enough in the center. It's a little softer around the corners, but like all the Viltrox lenses I've tested, there aren't many optical aberrations to speak of. And it has a really good close focus distance of less than 0.2 meters. The autofocus performance is great. 20mm is wide enough for walk and talk vlogging if that's your thing, but for me, where it's most useful is handheld family portraits when I'm actually in the shot. I finally found a use for that dreaded selfie screen on the ZF, although it's a little too wide for street photography, and Viltrox doesn't say if this lens is weather sealed. It has a 52mm filter thread to share with the 40mm f2, but the 28mm f2.8 from Nikon also shares the same filter size, and it's the obvious choice most of us already have in our bags. Look, 28 it's easier to shoot with than 20 or 26 on the street. There's less distortion, it's quieter and faster autofocus, not to mention dust and drip resistance. So why did I go for the 26 instead of the 28? The 28 is sharp, a little soft at minimum focusing distance, and there's purple fringing in the highlights. Both of these problems aren't really there with the 26mm. The glowing briefcase in Pulp Fiction is perhaps the most famous example of a movie MacGuffin, an otherwise ordinary object. We have no idea what's inside, but it must be important given how Jules and Vincent react to this mystery. The greatest mystery about Japan is not what to pack in your camera bag, but instead how to figure out the perfect 2-week itinerary. 15 trips in, I've seen most of the tourist traps already. I can plan each day around finding the best food or hunting down vintage watches or jackets, but just like stressing about cameras and lenses, these are all just MacGuffins. If I'm not careful, my itinerary's all jam-packed. There's no room to breathe, and everything's a little too tight. My tight telephoto lens of choice for this Japan trip is a Nikon 135mm f1.8 Plena. But look, I'll concede it's not the most practical pick for travel. Much more practical in terms of size, the TD Artisan 75mm f2, which might be my favorite lens I've tested all year. A clicky aperture ring, minimal aberrations, sharp but not clinical vintage rendering, but it conflicts with non-negotiable 5 for travel photography, a consistent editing workflow on the go. If I wait till I get home to start editing, those photos will sit on the hard drive for 12 months untouched. But to make editing while traveling remotely feasible, I need to use the same preset on import for every single shot. This TD Artisan 75 is a third-party lens. It doesn't have as many built-in corrections as Nikon's first-party offerings, and its IQ is very different from the 26mm. I can't just apply the same Lightroom preset to images shot on the 26 and the 75 because I need different settings for correcting fringing, dehazing for lens flare, and a little more sharpening on the 75 to match the 26. This would just slow my edit down. I don't get enough sleep as it is shooting at night. So this 75 isn't coming on the trip. Nikon's 85mm f1.8 is a little longer, a little brighter, a little better corrected, and much more resistant to flaring than a TT Artisan 75. And I have no issues matching the 85mm from Nikon to its 26mm sibling. So why did I go with a much heavier and bigger Plena instead? Because of non-negotiable 4 for travel photography, there are no just-in-case lenses. Every shooting scenario has a dedicated lens, and every scenario that warrants a longer focal length from cityscapes to mountains look just as good, if not better, on 135 than it does on 85. Rather than take the 85mm because of its smaller size as a just-in-case telephoto I throw in every bag, I'd rather take the Plena specifically to do specific jobs and shoot beautiful Tokyo cityscapes up on rooftops and train stations at night. I found 135 for street work is surprisingly versatile, and I can get intimate, abstract shots I've never captured before in Japan. The exotics are actually the easy part because after the wide and the tele, what's left is the standard. Nikon has made a ton of standard primes. But before I get there, non-negotiable 3 for travel photography is I need a backup camera. My main body is the Nikon ZF, and I've always had a Leica M as the backup on previous trips. They pair surprisingly well together. I can use the TT Artisan 6-bit adapter for my M lenses to use them on the ZF with electronic rangefinder focus confirmation, but this time my backup to the ZF is the Z6 III. I'm still working on long-term reviews for both cameras, but in my workflow I get identical results from both. Sure, the autofocus is a bit faster on the Z6 III, but not by much unless you're shooting sports or wildlife, and every lens I pack, every Lightroom preset I use works the same on both cameras. And it makes my newest non-negotiable for travel photography possible. Non-negotiable 2 is one charger only. Both cameras use the same Nikon batteries, which can be charged on the same 2 battery charger, which in turn plugs into the same USB-C power brick I use to charge my phone and laptop. This is then a true backup body, and on a day trip I can have the Pancake on one camera, leaving the Plena for nighttime. But which standard do I go with? I find 35mm to be a good mindless focal length to have while traveling. You still need to work hard for the shot, but there's no distortion to control for. Your composition doesn't have to be quite as tight, yet it's always pretty useful. Wide enough for family and food shots on the go, great for street if you're in the right scene. On Nikon Z there's 2 options, the f1.4 or the f1.8s. Both are sharp enough, both weather sealed enough, although the f1.8s is marginally better on both. Does the f1.4 matter? Bokeh? Yep, it's dreamier and more nostalgic on the f1.4, but the f1.8 is a little vintage looking as well without all the accompanying aberrations that the f1.4 has in Loca and fringing. So for editing on the go, remember non-negotiable 5, I need a separate preset just for the 35 f1.4 images. That kind of makes it a no-go, so my 35 of choice is the f1.8, but do I even need a 35 if I take the 40? Nikon's 40mm is sharp, certainly sharp enough for street photography from 3 to 5 meters away. Wide open at f2, you can get some dreamy bokeh with interesting specular highlights and character, but it does have fringing I'll need to correct for, and it's a little too soft wide open at minimum focusing distance, say indoor at a restaurant. I need to tweak the preset on quite a few parameters just for the 40, which again means for this trip it's staying home. But with the 26 and 35, this leaves a huge gap all the way until 135. I only wanted to bring 3 lenses, but I might need 1 more lens. To this day, Tarantino refuses to tell anyone what's in that glowing briefcase, by letting audiences argue over what's in that mystery briefcase for decades. My version of the movie will be different to your version of the movie, which deepens our respective connections to that story. My version of Japan will be different to your version of Japan. Everything's worth your time if you have the time for it, but don't let the MacGuffins of the trip trick you into thinking there's always something new you need to do, somewhere new you need to be. It's fine just to wander the streets with a camera in hand, with nothing special to do and nothing special to see, because in Japan, even the mundane has beauty. For most photographers, there's nothing more mundane than a 50, but it's my favorite focal length, my go-to default. When the bags start feeling heavy, everyone's tired and complaining, I want a lens that I can shoot without thinking, which brings me to my last non-negotiable for travel photography, autopilot. I need a 50 in my bag for those days I don't feel like shooting, when I can just react and compose on autopilot without thinking. And Nikon makes a lot of 50s. If you've watched all the way to this point, my pick for a 50 won't be a surprise. It's actually my favorite Nikon lens, the 50mm f1.8s. It'll take a lot to dethrone this 50mm. It's probably the best nifty 50 ever made. You'll find my video testing the 50 f1.4 not only against the f1.8s, but also another Nikon classic here when it's ready to go. I'm Jack, and this is my bokeh therapy.